Okay,
Hi,
then.
and welcome everyone. Hon Ying to everyone who's joining from a Chinese speaking country, and my apologies for butchering your language.
Hi.
Uh, this is, we're very excited to have Yiyin Ding with us, Dr. Yiyin Ding with us today. And I'm Benjamin Duster, and I'm briefly introducing SHRED, what SHRED is, what we are doing here, and what the purpose of the seminar is. So SHRED is a research network. It's loosely also an artist network. It's a network of people who are interested in pastimes like skateboarding, surfing, BMX, but also music, art, and also interested in the environment and how these things impact the environment and how we can use what we learn, for example, through BMX to use the waste or repurpose the waste that we produce and have sort of return a positive impact on the environment and on the people that we are engaging with. So SHRED stands for skateboarding or skating, sustainability, health research, and environmental design. And we have several projects. One of the projects you're participating in right now, which is the SHRED seminar series. So with these, when you're looking on our website, which is available on WordPress, I will afterwards also put a link of that for that into the chat. We have accumulated a nice number, a healthy number of presentations, including our amazing host today, Dr. Clifton Evers, who's talking about his polluted leisure and surf research, and many more. So what we usually do is we record these sessions. So those of you who might be joining from a YouTube video, hello to you in the future. And yes, we upload these recordings on YouTube. We cut them up into little snippets and share them as reels also on our Instagram page and on other platforms. So you can stay in touch with us there as well. The handle is go_shred, shred that is with double S. And we have a couple more things lined up for the rest of the year. Two things in particular, another SHRED seminar with Dan Johnston, who is a skateboarder, interdisciplinary artist, a photographer, and he will present on his work photographing material traces in skate parks across mainly, I think, Australia, but also the world more in general, different countries that he visited. So that is something to look out for. Again, you can follow us to keep receive the updates for that. And another thing that we are working on at the moment is a zine. The zine is called Green Pressure. And I'm planning to have this ready for the Christmas rush. This will be available online, but also in print. As a file, you will be able to print this yourself and distribute it if you want to. Also, you can also just check it out and read it. It will be a way to, again, highlight the research and the artistic practice and the great things, inspiring things that many of the participants and people that we have featured and will feature are doing. As a way to do that sort of tied into the internet, but also extracting it from the internet into the real world, I guess, in a material form through like a little magazine that will be printed and put into cafes, skate shops, record stores, cinemas, theaters, etc., etc. And we're also planning to print or prepare stickers. So they will have the QR code. So if you want to distribute those around, that will be available too. Cool. Without further ado, handing over to our great host, Dr. Clifton Evers.
Thanks, Ben, and thanks Indigo and Ben for once again organizing one of these SHRED seminars. They've become quite influential, I think. Every time if I miss them, I watch them back. And I'm always referring to them now whenever I'm thinking through my ideas because, well, that's the list of guests have been pretty incredible and cover a lot of the sports we all love and participate in or don't participate in and research. So I'm Dr. Clifton Evers. I work at Newcastle University in the UK. I'm not from here originally. I'm originally from Australia. A lot of my research falls into sort of surf studies, but I always stay in conversation with other lifestyle action sports. I love reading about it all, and I particularly love reading Yiyin Ding's work. So I have on Google Scholar, every time one of Yiyin's pieces comes out, I have a Google Scholar alert, and it always, the first thing I do is grab a cup of tea, as we tend to do here in the UK, and I'll sit down and read it. Because I remember when Yiyin uh, first released her Parents, Me and Exports article in Journal of Sports and Social Issues. And it was sort of took me aback because I'd been living in China for a while. And then I came across, and then this work popped up when I was back here. And I realized, wow, what a gap Yiyin was filling in the Chinese landscape in terms of her scholarship. So Yiyin Ding is speaking today to us about Everybody's East Lake, and she's going to talk to that through the conceptual lens of grey space and polluted leisure. Yiyin is from Hangzhou Normal University. And I used to love visiting Hangzhou. It's one of the most beautiful cities, I think, in China. Um, and as I said, you know, when I pick up Yiyin's work, it's the complexity she can sort of pull apart. Like some of the things we talk about are so sometimes there's so much change going on in terms of these sports, especially with the entry into the Olympics, with their different cultural traditions tied to different histories of them, different people and bodies and equipment coming together in really entangled, messy ways. But in amongst all that is power and politics. And I always put power and politics at the center of that. And I notice Yiyin does too. That's one of her core concerns. And when I read her work, I always notice there's genuine care there. Care for the participants, care for the cultures, care for the spaces and places that she's doing research with and in. So this piece that I noticed, it's going to be talking, correct me if I'm wrong, Yiyin, is going to speak to sort of East Lake in Hangzhou, challenges over ambiguities over authenticity, about what constitutes authenticity in this space, sort of moving away from sort of what we would call blue and green space leisure into this urban grey space leisure, which Paul O'Connor, Indigo, and others have highlighted as a chromatic turn, extending the chromatic turn of leisure studies and sports studies. So I'd like to introduce Yiyin. We'll listen to Yiyin's talk, and then afterwards I'll host the questions. So if you have questions, you can either post them in the chat or you can raise your hand and I'll address you accordingly. So Yiyin, welcome to the SHRED seminars, and I'm really looking forward to this talk. Thank you.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Can hear me all right, right?
I can.
Okay. Well, first, let me just say thank you very much, Dr. Clifton, for your very, very kind and generous comments for me and for my work. I am deeply grateful to Dr. Clifton because my first paper on BMX and without your help couldn't be published. I can definitely say that. And it is you who guide me through the whole revising process. And it's you who also helped me to guide my research in BMX. And also that paper helped me locate my academic job. So really, you really support me so much. And that's how I can have the basis to establish myself as a BMX scholar to continue my research. So I give all that debt to you. I am eternally grateful for your support in the beginning. So thank you. And also to host the session, for me, it is really a big honor. Thank you. And secondly, I want to thank SSHRED for this invitation and to have this platform to share my research on BMX and to share my work on lifestyle sports in China. As you know, BMX, either in China or in other parts of the world, is still a very, what we could say, a niche sport. And we don't have a lot of attention. And to have the SSHRED platform to introduce my research, it is really a good opportunity. And I thank Indy and Ben and Paul for the opportunity. Okay, so now I will share my screen on today's topic. I hope everyone can see my slide. Is it okay? Okay, okay, good. So to everyone in all parts of the world, hello, my name is Yiyin Ding, and today my topic is Everybody's East Lake, BMX in gray spaces and polluted leisure in China. I will begin my talk from this photo. As you can see in the center of this photo, it says "Jump Our Lake." It is actually a WeChat article published in 2020. And from this article, this article is actually the chance that draw my attention to the BMX lake jump in Wuhan. And this article talked about a couple of months after COVID-19 quarantine and the travel restriction has been lifted nationally, BMX riders were among the first people to return to Wuhan to continue riding there, as well as bring much needed vibrancy and support to the city, deeply scarred by the pandemic. And this photo and this WeChat article is how I started in investigating my case study on the BMX lake jump. So here I outlined my talk, which comprise of 6 parts: the origin, the framework, the methods, the material and symbolic dimensions, how I try to engage the Western or foreign framework with the Chinese Xiuxian leisure philosophy, and something more about how I do BMX research in China and my methods and positions. Okay, first, for those of you who don't know much about the BMX lake jump in Chinese, we say 跳东湖. I will give the basic information of this event. As you can see in this photo, this is the Ningbo Gate open air swimming pool in East Lake. And this is where everything begins, where the BMX lake jump happens. And the origin of 跳东湖, BMX event involving jumping over East Lake, traced back to a very hot summer night in 2010. On that night, a group of local BMX enthusiasts tentatively used the concrete trestle of Ningbo Gate open-air swimming pool as a makeshift diving platform into the East Lake. They discovered immense joy from this game, and these riders smartly constructed a wooden ramp, as you can see in this picture, this wooden ramp that they make, and transformed the Ningbo Gate swimming pool into a unique venue for their daring stunts. Riders would launch themselves off the ramp on their BMX bikes, soar through the air, and plunge into the water below. This innovative blend of sports and leisure marked the beginning of 跳东湖, and also a direct link between the event and the BMX culture that would come to define it. So one of the initiators of the BMX lake jump, Liu Zhenyu, he submitted this act as a performance art piece in the Everybody's East Lake, as everyone can see in this photo. So what is Everybody's East Lake? Initially, it is an anarcho-environmental art project against real estate developer OCT, namely the Overseas Chinatown Group. This OCT group privatized a lot of East Lake shoreline and potentially reclaiming some water space originally belonging to the East Lake fishery. So this Everybody East Lake activism or artistic movement is to against these real estate companies by privatizing the East Lake area. And from this map, we can see from the screen, these dots are showing of people who are performing artistic acts in these places to demonstrate their support for the Everybody East Lake anarcho environmental movement. And you can see in these pictures are some of the artistic work in the Everybody's East Lake artistic movement, including what I just mentioned, the BMX lake jumping game. So whether it is a person holding a East Lake water in his hands or the band space of the East Lake, this all conform to the principle of entering and spending time in the space and acting in it to seek personal autonomy and freedom in the East Lake area. So these acts are just common acts that happening around East Lake every day, whether you take a nap around the lake or you see the water and feel the touch of the water. But some of these just common acts around the East Lake are difficult to achieve after the lake has been privatized and also polluted by the real estate company OCT. So that is how the BMX lake jumping game from initially a game transformed into artistic movement and later becomes a city gala, a city youth festival. As you can see, after the East Lake jumping game has attracted media attention, the size of this event has actually increased and become Wuhan's landmark summer event. However, in 2016, one of the sponsors of the event, Number 18 Craft Brewery, which is a beer company, registered the lake jumping IP. As you can see, it actually become a type of IPA beer, the name of an IPA beer. They registered this 跳东湖 East Lake BMX jumping trademark without informing the BMX sites. And also, they have hosted the event annually, just titled 跳东湖 BMX Lake Jump. This IP registration has led to a split between the lifestyle sports community and the beer brewery, resulting in two separate East Lake jumping events being held annually. As you can see in this photo on the right, this is the BMX lake jumping event hosted by the beer brewery. And on the other side, we can see that the BMX has tried to organize their own jumping event, which has used various names. As you can see in this photo, one time they used the Making Wave on the East Lake as their jumping games title. And for the other year, they used East Lake Jump as the title of the event. So these two events are actually hosted by the BMX sides and in contestation to the beer one, which has stolen their IP. But unfortunately, the BMX side's jumping event has stopped in 2023 because they cannot have enough sponsorship. So that's a pity. So against this backdrop, I have put my against this backdrop, my central research question is, what role did BMX and its affiliated community play in the construction of Everybody's East Lake? To follow this question, actually, I need to rely on Dr. Clifton and Dr. O'Connor's work on polluted leisure within a gray space framework. I was a big fan of Dr. Clifton and also Dr. O'Connor's work. Dr. Clifton had written a lot of surfing in China, written a lot of work on surfing in China, where I can trace his thoughts on polluted leisure back then. Back then, in those days, he was researching China, and as well as O'Connor's work on using helmet to skateboard in Hong Kong. These works has all been a great inspiration for my reinterpretation of their polluted leisure within a gray space framework. And according to Dr. Evers, polluted leisure describes the embodied sensorial, emotional, intellectual, spatial, and technological emergence of pollution, material and social, harmful and non-harmful, actual and perceived, assembling with leisure. So in China, communion with a gray space is evident among many Chinese lifestyle sports participants. Here, the gray space I refer to is characterized by gray materials, and in particular, the anthropogenic rock of modernity, concrete, particularly concerning their leisure environments. And here I share a photo of the 2024 Olympic Qualified Series, Shanghai, which was held at Huangpu Binjiang Park, as you can see in this photo. This park is transformed from the relics of Jiangnan Shipyard's #1 dock. You can still see the old shipment here in the back of the skateboarding park. So BMX riding together with skateboarding activities are intrinsically linked to the city's pollution. And on the other side, from my continued research with BMX riders, I noticed that a new phenomenon appearing in many Chinese cities is these roadside skate parks or BMX parks under highway bridges. So this one is from my field work in the summer vacation, and I took it in a highway bridge in Shanghai. If we took some steps into this BMX park, you can see that under this highway bridge is actually packed with many shops, one being a pet store. I don't know if anyone can see in the background, there is a yellow store, and this is actually a pet zoo. And while I was doing field work there and interviewing my BMX participants, I noticed a very strong smell of pets stinks. And I asked my BMX participants or interviewees, like, do you feel it? And he said, oh, not much when the wind blows. And this is a very clear demonstration of how many Chinese BMX riders struggle to sustain a BMX career. And we can clearly see that leisure is therefore both materialistic and symbolic. So to draw on my previous origins of the BMX lake jump, I have divided my methods into 3 major segments: semi-structured interviews, non-participant observations, and social media analysis. Why I divided my materials into 3 parts, the main reason is because I used semi-structured interviews to interview the BMX participants who has participated in the lake jump event. And I used non-participant observations for the several East Lake jump events so I can take notes and track their behavior and see how they use the space for their events. And for the For the social media analysis, one part I analyzed BMX related social media outlets. And also for the artistic content related to the Everybody's East Lake project, I used their Weibo, Douban, and their online websites. And for all these social media analysis, I was using only public accessible content, and for everyone who for their names, I also anonymized. Okay, so in the fourth part of this seminar, I will talk about the materialistic dimensions of the event. As everybody can see in this photo, actually I provided two sets of photos. On the left is the original maps of the field, and here is the after the privatization or urbanization of the lake sites. And on the right, we can also notice that a lot of the land and a lot of the lake space has been taken over the urbanization and the pollution of the lake area. And for the East Lake in Wuhan, starting in the 1960s, urban expansion and agricultural reforms led to the pollution of the lake spaces. As we can see in these two sets of pictures, the total surface water area in Wuhan decreased from 370 square kilometers to 264 square kilometers between 1987 to 2013, and this represented a 2.3 times loss compared to the previous decade. And here we can see our BMX activists and how they engaged in the loss of the East Lake. And here I provided a quote from Xiaoqiang, the main participant and organizer of the East Lake Jump event. He said, "I had a slogan that was, 'Our joy doesn't need Happy Valley. We ride BMX to play at East Lake.' Even if you're swimming or doing other leisure activities, you can enjoy the free and joyful nature that comes with it at East Lake. Instead of saying that if you feel the lake, I have to go to your place to buy tickets. I will pay for you and I will pay for feeling the lake." So in the material dimension, I want to highlight the lake's ongoing pollution by BMX, how BMX riders physically engaging with its compromised environment, thus making invisible greenwashing neo-corporate environmentalism that might otherwise remain abstract or neglected. On the other hand, the BMX riders, they reclaim the lake as a shared open space, and through their playful practices, they unite riders from different backgrounds. This struggle between a space of contamination and its prevention testify to the fact that this blue space is in fact a gray space. The ethos of Everybody's East Lake is both materially and symbolically gray. In the second part, I will talk about the symbolic dimension of the Tiaodonghu events. The symbolic dimension divided into two controversies over the real and fake Tiaodonghu events. In the first controversy over real and fake Tiaodonghu events, the sponsors of this event, they want to use the BMX freedom, cool creativity to brand the event. But on the other hand, this branding is under the risk of subcultural sell-out anxiety. So the authenticity become a very key currency. The insiders such as Xiaoqiang, as you can see this photo on the left, this is Xiaoqiang, and I took this photo while I was interviewing him. He resisted schedules. A lot of insiders, a lot of BMX riders, they resisted schedules packed with commercial segments. And this has drawn insider-outsider boundaries. And the first real and fake controversies has prompted rider-only additional sections arranged by Xiaoqiang, letting the coursing police easels while the public-facing event served sponsors. So this is the first controversy over the real and fake Tiaodonghu event. The more obvious real and fake Tiaodonghu events or East Lake Jump events happened when the beer brewery stolen the IP, the Tiaodonghu IP, and this time the actual real and fake Tiaodonghu events happened. And even though the beer brewery, they stolen the Tiaodonghu BMX lake jumping IP, the BMX side, they didn't stop. They didn't just let it them taking the IP. Instead, they hosted their own events. As I mentioned before, the BMX has host their own Tiaodonghu event every year. So instead of walking away, the BMX side ran parallel DIY sessions like Donghu Jump and Donghu making wave on East Lake, bargaining for money and attention to flow back into the sport. So this wasn't simple anti-commercial purism. Riders selectively embraced sponsorship when it strengthened community and identity. The fight over authenticity became a way to police the scene from within, deciding what counts as legit East Lake jumping event. In short, BMX kept East Lake a contested gray commons shared with capital but not determined by it. As we can see from this quote from a BMX rider Fu, the brewery one, fake one, they registered the Tiaodonghu IP. Their goal wasn't BMX Tiaodonghu, but commercial profit. They would just jump a couple of times as a formality. Their focus was on the commercial market, not prioritizing BMX jumping. So to conclude with my speech, I want to have a dialogue with Chinese philosophy of leisure, which written in Chinese is 休闲, as we can see in this calligraphy of the words. From left, we can see the left is the word for Chinese character 修. The pictographic character for 修 depicts a person leaning on a tree, symbolizing a physical relaxation. And on the left, we see a pictographic character for 闲, describing a log. As you can see in the center, this is actually a log bearing a door and represents a protected, undisturbed space, retaining the meaning of a space in between, having free time and the action of guarding against. So these two characters, why I want to quote these two characters to conclude with my research on East Lake and on 休闲 and on BMX lake jumping. So here I read 休闲, leisure, Chinese words for leisure, as an everyday ethics of living in one with nature. And I show how BMX riders make that tangible at East Lake. Through DIY, anarcho-environmental acts, and ordinary rides, they practice a kind of sensual pedagogy that cares for water, shore, and creatures. They push back against commercialized, privatized waterfronts to keep blue space open and more than human rhythms, bikes, ramps, docks, into a shared flow. In doing so, they enact harmony between the subjective mind and object nature. Not as a slogan, but as a spatial justice, reclaiming polluted, commodified edges as common leisure. This is 休闲 as practice, quiet resistance, open access, and ongoing co-creation with the beautiful East Lake, as we see in this photo. Okay, so to conclude, I will share a little bit more of doing BMX research in China and more. as in the previous panel, BMX panel, there was a BMX rider asked me like, why you're a woman and how are you interested in BMX? It is true, I accidentally started researching BMX, and I have actually grew more close to the BMX community. I've always done BMX research as a non-participant observation, and over time, while I spent more time with my BMX participants, I have get the chance to gauge both the veracity and the authenticity of my analysis. And what I'm trying to do in my previous BMX related work is I always try to provide an Asian perspective, be it like the previous mentioned Shouxian philosophy, or in my first BMX paper, I tried to talk about how family, the parents, influence their lifestyle participants' life choices. And I think that's how has always been my approach, my Asian perspective in researching lifestyle sports in China, because I think China is a very special culture, and we have specific context when we're talking about how lifestyle sports develop here. And that is my Asian perspective. And of course, along my research, I had a lot of struggles. As you can see here, this is me taking a photo with Xiaoqiang, my main interviewee for the 跳东湖 the BMX lake jump on a field work. And without everybody noticing, actually, I am 5 months pregnant in this photo. So I did the field work when I'm pregnant. And I think that's the difficulty a lot of female scholars experience when you have to push research agenda, but also balance your roles as a mother, as a as a female. So I had my struggles. But on the other hand, the struggle lies in the sport itself. Since now we have Dr. Clifton, we have Dr. O'Connor, who has been very active in speaking out on lifestyle sports to argue for more space and rights for skateboarding and surfing. And BMX is relatively still a very small research field. And while I was very deeply involved in the community and I was very interested in researching BMX, it is still a niche sport, and it's very difficult to garner attention in China in terms of getting grants. So I feel I'm pushing, and I thank everybody, thank Indy and Dr. Clifton. Everyone has been so supportive, and actually you guys are the main strengths for me to continue doing my research. So that's my struggles. And in terms of my research trajectory, for BMX, I have published 3 papers. This is the one on the left is actually the one who Clifton has helped me a lot in getting it published, where I talked about how family relationships has impact lifestyle sports participation in China. And for the second paper, it's written in Chinese, and it's also about the same subject I talked today, but I used a different framework. I used the Lifbreeze rhythm analysis for the second work, talking about the rhythm, how it has been disturbed by the COVID-19, and how BMX riders has regained their rhythm through sport, through their love for the city and their love for the East Lake. And building on my previous research, I have kind of expanded a little bit more and tried to explore a little bit more on how I could expand my topic. So recently, so the 2 papers in the lower half are papers I've already completed. On the left is a case study on the Estonian simple session, and I have used it as a demonstrative lifestyle competition and how it has become a city's brand competition. So that kind of explored lifestyle competitions, commercial or city, their relationship with the city. So this work has been already been completed. And for the more than human perspective, I've actually completed another paper on camping activities in China and how these random camping activities has created pollution, more polluted form leisure in China. So this paper has already been submitted to the Annals of Leisure Research, and currently I'm revising it and hopefully we'll get it out soon. And I also had a very good news to share that just a month ago, I actually got a government grant, and this grant is supporting me to investigate how this lifestyle sports space fit into the city's landscape. So for that work, I have been doing on the more materialistic side, which I visited a lot of these lifestyle spaces in Hangzhou, in Shanghai, and I also delved into the symbolic side where I interviewed and getting to know more BMX riders and BMX activities. On the left is a photo I taken from the July 20th BMX holiday, the BMX Day event in Shanghai. And through all these field work, I gathered more research data on how a sport in terms of space, in terms of participation, has more merged into a city's urbanization, into the gray space development in Chinese cities. So this is more or less it. I think I'm 40. I think I used 20 minutes, so that's the end of my talk. I hope my English is understandable to everyone. I'm very nervous. I hope everyone understand what I'm saying. I was very nervous, and I really thank everybody. And I know some of my friends from Japan are also here, and my students and everybody, Indy, Ben, and Clifton. Thank you so much. And I also just want to add one more thing, because when I was doing the final check on my leisure study, this paper, I did in such a hurry, I forget it to write the acknowledgements. And I know some of the very brilliant editors are here, Dr. Clifton, Indy, and Ben, and Paul. I want to thank you all for your kind guidance for my paper through the editorial and process of this paper. I should write it in my acknowledgements, but I forgot to write it, and I missed the opportunity. So I also want to use this opportunity to thank you all. I cannot do it without you guys. Okay, so that's all for me.
Thank you, Yiyin. That was, wow, that was an amazing paper. And yes, your English was perfect.
No.
Your presentation that it was measured and careful, and but at the same time, I have 1,001 questions for you because it was really thought-provoking.